thanks everybody for joining us. I know more people will be coming in, but before we really get into the subject matter, we've got a lot of people. So if it is possible, the way we work for those that are new to the Augmented Society Network is that we don't really have a panel with just people listening. We really embrace and celebrate the diversity of intelligence and viewpoints and perspectives that come into the conversation with our Augmented Society Network sessions. And we ask that if we try, Zoe and I try the best as we can to look out for you and call on you if we see something, but also if you want to raise your hand, either physically in the picture or by clicking that button so that your hand raises within the Zoom window. We ask that we just are all respectful, and so we'll now get into the session. So thanks everybody for joining us. I'm Jonathan Taves. Zoe Camper is my partner in crime in running these things, but we've got a lot of people that have been very active in doing something that has been a really amazing experience, different than I think any of us had looked to getting into. With the Augmented Society Network, we are a thematic network, a part of the Royal Society of the Arts. The three main goals of the Augmented Society Network in looking at how is society going to be augmented by technologies, new systems, different ways of doing things or even thinking about things. And with that, the goal of the ASN is to bring people together for networking, to allow a sandbox to be created for people to collaborate and work together on possible new things. And thirdly, if we can have an impact on policy or the way people do things in practice, that's one of the things that we really hope for. You can always find us at augmentedsociety.org, and there you'll find past sessions. We record every session and we show it as a podcast that is always available. So you can go back since we began a few years ago and see content. And again, it's really a celebration of the people that come and join us, where it is open conversation. We look to incite and excite and get us all thinking in different ways. We are coming to the end of the beginning. We have gotten to a point with pandemic that we are seeing vaccinations going around. We are seeing things open up a little bit. Pubs allowing people to drink in the pub. We'll see how that works. But out of all of this, with the ASN, we've been focusing on getting through the pandemic, touching in with each other, looking at what issues we're seeing arise. And one of those immediate issues that we saw was how the education system, we knew that it was broken and the pandemic kicked us in the butt and said that we needed to make change. It's as if all of the world was fired from their status quo and forced to reckon. And we really embraced that opportunity to create this piece, which is an opportunity to reimagine learning. And it really is an opportunity for us. As I said, it's the end of the beginning, because when we set out for this, to do this, we were thinking, and it was Zoe, Mitch, and I that we had this conversation. What if we, after having some great conversations, sessions, what if we were actually to create something that could be used all around the world as a way to look at how do we redefine learning? And we were very particular about using the word learning in our title instead of education, because the learning puts the onus on all of us that we should constantly be seeking knowledge and learning, and by us in that quest helping others. So we are going to spend today talking about, it's sort of like the behind the scenes, and we've got a lot of participants from around the world that were collaborators on this. Ultimately, I think we've got participation from 14 countries across 5 continents on this project. It's really been exciting. We're going to go through a lot of what we've learned. We will be distributing the version of this in April. looking at, we're hoping for the first week of April, but there's a bunch of stuff that we've got to work through. We are really proud of where we've gotten to. We will not really be talking about the content as sort of a representation of what we're doing. We'll be talking today about what actually was the experience. Nobody's really done this before, because if you think of it as a white paper, usually white papers are a way for a company to express their own perspectives. And we really created something different in terms of providing an opportunity for people from, again, different backgrounds to come together. We defined 8 themes as part of what education should look like in the future. And also, we have really allowed the theme leads, and many of the theme leads are here. Just to call out the theme leads on this, I've already mentioned Zoe, mentioned my involvement, but Cyril Widget and Tim Stiven, Nitzan Hamron, Linda Levitt, Amy Moser, Rashida Murbo, Tony Breslin, Ben Strawbridge, Carlos Lagarcha Martinez were the theme leads. And then we had, Zoe called out Julie Samuels earlier. She was phenomenal in helping doing the final edits. And Jenna Fuentes was also great in terms of doing a lion's share. We have others too, like Ruth Travers, that are, there's other people that are here that also played a big role. So I hate to even call out names because there was a lot of activity. I'm going to stop talking because Zoe will take us to the next level of really diving into what were we setting off to do, what did we actually find in that, and how can we hopefully set this up so that it is not an end point, but a beginning point, a stepping stone to really create change in how we as all of society, not just K through 12 or K through 16 or just higher education, but how do we throughout our entire life learn? Zoe, take it away.
Sure. So welcome everybody. Thank you very much for coming along. One of the important parts of being in a thematic network for the Royal Society of Arts is to actually affect change, to enable people to have a voice and to be able to share expertise. So it has been an exercise in sharing, and an incredibly enjoyable and at sometimes stressful also, because we've the best result for all of those people who contributed as well. So at any one time, we've had around 27 to 30 people creating content, collaborating online, being part of Zoom sessions, and learning from each other from 5 continents, as Jonathan said. It's been an extraordinary experience. And on your screen, I hope you can see the just the front cover of the document itself. It breaks down into 8 themes, and we have some of the leads from those themes here today. The idea being that those themes are written from various aspects of specialism or experience, from different styles, different characteristics. The pieces, in some cases, have been written by people who do not have English as a first language. So it is an incredibly diverse view of education and learning. And it stems really from birth to I wouldn't say death, but that's for Carlos to speak about, I think, being the one who at the universality and the role of community in learning and education. So I don't want to talk too much. I must say it has been an incredible experience, and one that's kept me sane throughout the last year that I thought would be a month. And I remember starting a book and thinking, when I've finished this book, everything will be back to normal. Well, how wrong could I possibly be? And would I want normal back? Actually, yes. No. So what I would love to do is just firstly, as Jonathan said, we will be distributing. It is in version 0.8, and we want to get to version 1.0 before we go public. We are in the throes of organising a global event with the Royal Society of Arts and Manufacture. We are looking for a date for that, which is then when we would like you all to share this document as widely as you possibly can. As Jonathan said, it's the end of the beginning or the beginning of the end, whichever way you see it. But this is a working document and one that you can use, tear pieces out of, share, or just consider. And we hope that you'll use it to enable change in whatever walk of life you're in. So I would like to hand over to Mitch, actually, to hear his thoughts.
So I think that, as Jonathan and Zoe both mentioned, this has really been an incredible experience. When we started, it was just kind of like a flip remark that one of the three of us made is, hey, you know, as long as we're having these meetings, why don't we do a paper on the meetings? And it just turned out to be, you know, a lot more than that. I do a lot of reading of education journals. I work with schools, I work with publishers, and there's an awful lot of the things that we brought up that have been published in one way or another just across the whole spectrum of education. But I haven't really seen any other publication that brings in all of these different aspects of the opportunities for change and the needs for change that we're facing today. And so I think that having so many you know, subject matter experts from so many different areas, from perspectives from different geographies, from different cultures, different races, different genders, you know, has made this an incredibly rich document. I just want to say we should all, every one of us should pat ourselves on the back for something that's really well done. And I'd encourage everybody that once you, I would actually even distribute to friends of mine from the 0.8 copy, but I would just encourage all of you to, when you find somebody who's interested in education, give them the opportunity to look through this, because it'll change their perspective.
And I'll, if everyone wants to put their emails into the chat, then we'll do that to distribute as soon as we can, so that you get a copy directly.
And at the just to add a point, at the end of this book, which it has become now, we do sort of hand it off and say, now it's your turn. And this is truly, I'm a futurist, but I can't tell you exactly how the future is going to go. And there are things that have evolved since we started writing. Like just in the editing phase, we'll see, oh, wow, that's already come to fruition, or it's even more meaningful, all those types of things. This is, if there was some way that we could put this in as open source, that people could come in and make changes and offer advice and offer solutions and say, well, what about this? And going left and going right and all of those types of things. We just, Zoe and I and Mitch and others from the RSA were contemplating different platforms to launch this on. And we just couldn't we wanted to get this out sooner than waiting for the perfect platform. And so the best way we can really celebrate this is if we do take it forward. And if we do create a community of sharing of ideas and the bigger picture of how can we help society, right? So be thinking in those terms as well as we talk here and as you then receive the project when it's completed.
And as you were talking, Amit Mehta had a comment, you know, will the book be evolving and augmentable? And that's basically what we would like. We just ran out of time. And so we haven't taken that next step of putting it on some platform where it could be augmentable or where it could foster conversations that then evolve it. But if anybody here has ideas on, or not just ideas, but is willing to put in some time to help us, we would love that.
Yeah, this is an entirely volunteer-based thing. We all have real jobs. This is a side hustle with no revenue opportunity. But it's, as Mitch was saying earlier, we've got people from all walks. Well, we've got venture capitalists that are involved. We've got technologists, people that have committed their lives to education involved. And it, as we've always said with the Augmented Society Network, it is about being a part of society. So we welcome all participation moving forward.
So I wondered if we could go to you, Julie, next, having been recruited and then sucked into the whole process, possibly against your will. But I just wondered if you could talk us through your experience.
Thanks, Julie.
I don't know what to say. It's been a challenge. It's been really exciting though. I've got to meet some really amazing people, and working with Amy and yourself, Zoe, it's a kind of opportunity to rethink, things that you took for granted, different perspectives, and reading everyone else's paper. I'm really, really inspired. I've got lots of, thoughts and ideas that I didn't have before. It's been a wonderful experience.
Tony, what are your thoughts? I know you've got to go, and I know Tim Stiven has to go sort of soon. So would love to get your thoughts on the experience.
It's been a fantastic experience to be involved in. It's been fantastic to be involved in this kind of open international collaboration. I think we do a lot of our work in education, maybe I shouldn't speak for others, but certainly myself, in our comfort zones and in our safe-ish spaces and in our echo chambers. And I loved this because it had none of that. And that chance to, debate and explore and move stuff back and forward. And it was, it was fantastic working with Zoe and Mitch and Jonathan on this. The one thing I would hold to is a comment I make in the paper, and I make almost any time that I speak about education, whether it's to an assembly of 6-year-olds at the school run chair of governors, or whether it's some august room of influencers. I don't often get to do that, of course, but and it is this, that the children in our our early years at the moment, in our reception classes, in our first years, whatever you call them in your location, right? The children starting out in school this September will find their futures in industries that don't yet exist, producing goods and services that we haven't yet thought of, fulfilling needs that we don't yet know we have. And so it seems to me that is so different to educating, for instance, a child growing up in a one industry town where you're preparing them essentially to probably spend most of their life in that town, to probably spend most of their life in that industry. And somehow we have to create an education and a learning system and an education and a learning culture that has the agility to do that. And, I've been, at the same time, alongside this, I've been writing a book which was published a month or so ago called Lessons from Lockdown. Not that I'd give that a cheesy plug here. We held focus groups involving parents, pupils, and education professionals. 16 interviews, 10 focus groups, over 100 participants. And we finished every conversation by saying, what can't you wait to get, by asking, what can't you wait to get back to? And what can't you wait to leave behind? And I think the second question is more important than the first, because unless we have the courage to leave some stuff behind, we won't have the space for the new stuff. And of course, it was, I thought last September when I sent the manuscript off, I thought, that's done, that's sorted. And of course, I'm now halfway through the sequel. I'm looking for much more international collaboration, so I'll be back to you on that. And that's called Bubbled Schools. But the point I'm making is we have to, the challenge is to create a culture of learning that will enable us all to take advantage of a world that we have never been less able to predict the future of. I think we've got to make that a world of opportunity and excitement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the challenge. I hope through this conversation, through open sourcing this material, etc. I hope we can make a contribution to it. But it's been great fun so far.
Tony, I've got to say one of the special moments for me was our back and forth, because I know I was trying to push you out of your comfort zone. So the fact that you commented about holding fast to a comfort zone, but I was really impressed with how you moved on from it and really did embrace. Like, one of the things we talked about was traditional schooling versus all these alternatives that are coming into play, whether one of us individually likes it or not, whether it's homeschooling, no schooling, world learning, whatever it's going to be called. That's all part of our society, and we have to embrace it. So Tony, that was a really cool experience, just to be in conversation with you and saying, get where you're coming from, but let's look at it differently, which is awesome. So thank you.
Well, thanks for pushing us, because the third book in the trilogy, the subtitle is The Case for Reschooling Society, not reschooling kids, reschooling society. And so that's what we've got to achieve. As it is, I remember saying to you, Jonathan, for me, one of the ironies about education, it's the only medicine that the less effective it is, the more of it they force down your throat. And we're actually, what we need is different medicines. And yet somehow to retain a comprehensive entitlement, that's the really difficult circle to square, because otherwise advantage will just follow advantage and disadvantage will follow disadvantage.
Right.
And I'll stop there.
Yeah, Tony, sorry, in your piece as well, something that I hadn't thought about was where you comment on the loss of the arts in schools and the loss of art teachers, for example, and then thinking about the school environment when there aren't art teachers there, who would by default take on different bits of fabric of the school. So you take those people away and it impacts the whole of the school. And I really hadn't thought about it that way before. And that was a real eye-opening moment for me.
And I guess the autobiographical bit there, it's not that I have any artistic talent, I don't, but I'm a sociology teacher by background. And sociology was effectively run out of our mainstream school curriculum at the end of the 80s when we introduced our national curriculum. And the consequence was that staff rooms lost their sociologists. Well, They lost a lot of their future leaders. They lost a lot of their union reps. They lost a lot of the people who ask awkward questions. And so, we really need to think of our schools in that kind of holistic way. And if we lose our artists, well, the walls just become grayer.
Yeah.
So Tim, I know you're chopping at the bit with.
Well, I'm living the dream, because I got my kids. This is our first day with kids back on campus. So we're doing it right now. But I think the one main thing I want to say is what's impressed me about this whole process is that COVID is this has been this global event that everyone, no matter what nation you're in, if you're in Liberia, there's a COVID story. They're confronting changes in education. We're confronting education changes. So it really is a paradigm shift. I think this is going to be a moment where we have this great opportunity to reinvent, because the change is happening, and the fact that there are people who, like us, who are thinking about how can we make this better and what can we do with it is really, really exciting. And I'm so happy to be part of that. So now, literally, because now I got class, because it starts in 2 minutes.
Well, thanks, Tim, and loved having your perspective in that classroom. You're in San Diego, working in humanities. Humanities Magnet, which has brought a different perspective, which has been great. So really appreciate that, and looking forward to sharing what you wrote in terms of that.
And can I bring, I think it's really pertinent to bring Linda in at this point, because...
Okay, bye everybody.
Bye, Tim.
I'm going to say goodbye as well.
Right,
goodbye,
care.
everybody.
Bye.
Have a great evening or morning.
Oh, Tim.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I wanted to bring Linda in because we work together on the design thinking piece, and that is a revelation in terms of how learning is being viewed for Linda and a small group of educational establishments. Linda, I wonder if you'd want to say a few words.
Oh, thanks, Zoe. Well, I mean, this has just been such a great opportunity. I'm a real newbie to the group, and this opportunity led me to you all, and I'm just so thankful that it has, because what this has done is kind of given me an outlet to for creativity, and because I'm a huge fan and we need to do school differently, and it's been that way for a long, long time. And so design thinking, and I'm a huge proponent of that kind of creative problem solving method, to iterate and think of just the most ultimate wild and crazy ideas. And I think right now, that's what we need more than ever before. I mean, I'm talking what you think, oh my God, that will not work, or, oh my God, there's just no way. That's the ideas that we need. That's what we need to be thinking more about, because my greatest fear in all of this, and I'm seeing it already, I'm seeing a real, I can't wait to get back. I can't wait to get back to the way that we did before. I can't, it's like there's security in that. There's great security in an atmosphere of great uncertainty that we have all experienced. And my greatest fear is that we'll want to go back to that normal that we had before. And we just can't go there. We have to use this as a tool to catapult us somewhere else. And gosh, I want to keep this going. It's like, because it's through these conversations and through these publications that we can help others think differently as well. And thank you. I can't thank you guys enough.
Thank you for being a part of it. But we start off with theme one, talking about what are those specs that we are going to need to be able to participate, the tech specs basically, for us to have as a basis for being a valuable part of society and moving it forward. And so it was interesting and fun for me to go back and forth with Cyril on the business, like looking at it almost like business components, and not wanting to, it wasn't about education for education's sake. It was about education and learning for us constantly to refine and dig deeper to create those elements that are that will make us a stronger part of society and growth. And that Linda was talking about change. I mean, change is, to me, it's more consistent and more constant than death and taxes, because we see much more of it than individually than those things. So Rashida, what was your thoughts on it? Coming from Morocco, would love to hear what your insights were.
So I was amazed by the process and by the project. First, I was very happy to be a part of the group, thinking about education, thinking about solutions to problems of education. But afterward, I was amazed by the opportunities and the chances that really exist in our world to change education to a better experience for everyone. We have a lot of chances to empower people, to empower citizens, to fight poverty, to make developments, to save the planet. And education is the first step and the first part to achieve all these purposes at once. So it's very noble and it's very efficacious for humanity and for society first, then for schools, then for educators, then for citizens, then for parents. So it was a very good experience. I was very happy. I thank God.
Thank you, Rashida.
And I think something I would love to bring Amy in at this point, because I feel like I had a very personal journey through all of this as well. Some of which I went into willingly, some of it I learned kind of the hard way. But I feel
kicking and screaming.
Yeah, from a personal perspective, I've learned, and our little group with Amy, Julie, and myself, in terms of who I am and where I am and what my privilege brings to my situation, and the stripping away of that and understanding that. And Amy brought it in, the term life among the ambulances, and the impact, the huge impact that the pandemic has had on millions and millions of people became much more visible to me. Amy, I don't know if you would like to comment on anything.
Sure, I'll chime in. So I am a 7th grade science teacher. I think most of you know, this process, I can't say enough good things. Zoe and Julie, you were like my saviors during a time that was just so difficult for me to carry on with just my day job. This entire process was so uncomfortable for me throughout. I felt like I'm not even speaking the same language as most of these people. And I don't just mean like, let me get out my translator and translate it from English to Spanish. I meant like galaxies apart. I don't know if you can see my background, but it's half like virtual and then it's like half real. I don't know if that's showing up for you, but it's very symbolic of this journey for me, because being a teacher and then hearing a lot of people that are in various aspects of the classroom or in academia or in technology or in venture capitalism, hearing what they think about ultimately what I wake up and do every day, it was a lot of cognitive dissonance for me. It was absolutely a growth process, and something that I think I'm still processing. I look forward to reading version 8, and I totally appreciate you guys putting up with a very prickly pear known as moi.
Amy, it was fantastic having you. I think we talk about the global. The fact is that you and Zoe are in the same city with completely different perspectives on the whole thing, which was why we wanted to do this in the way we did it. And it was great to, it was like having somebody boots on the ground in a community that couldn't even count on consistent Wi-Fi, let alone the time to actually do the work that's required, right? And so your participation, your insight, your way of sharing has been completely invaluable. So I personally thank you for everything you brought to this project.
And I think I'd just add in that, having been a teacher and a teacher in the UK when the SATs were coming in, when more time was spent on determining success or failure than what we were teaching, at a time when I became completely disillusioned. I find it difficult, but nowhere near as difficult as Amy does, to hear us all talk about what's wrong, because you wake up every day with every child's best interests at heart. And I learned a lot from when you were saying, Amy, nothing about us without us. And occasionally we drifted off from that. And you would remind us on many occasions about what it really actually meant on a daily basis. And without that reminder, I think we would have all been worse off. I think it's possibly a good time for Ruth to comment, because we did a piece on the joy of learning. Why are we actually doing this? What is it, or what should education be about that is deeply joyous? And I found what Ruth does in your school, and another contributor, Jess, who can't be here today. We're on the fringes of education. It's not the mainstream, but offering the luxury, the cream, as it's referred to by Maslow, and yet some of the most important experiences that help you from a lifelong learning perspective. We'll obviously move on to what Carlos was talking about as well, about that fabric, about society being involved. But Ruth, I just wonder what it's like for you going to school every day.
Well, first of all, I came to this very late, so I felt I was right on the tail end of something wonderful that was already happening. I also felt that I had been very tunnel visioned, because obviously my passion is that every child in the world is allowed to learn to read and write music, which they are not, unless they pay for it. It's quite an elitist thing. And what I do is I train teachers around the world to teach children from the age of 3 to actually read, write, and compose music for themselves independently. And I'm spending a lot of time trying to re-educate the schools in just bridging the cultural gap. And I know it can happen, and I know it works. But I did find, I've been incredibly tunnel visioned about this is the only thing that mattered to me, was every child having an amazing musical education. And then, Zoe, you gave me lots of questions that were kind of not really even about particularly music. And it was very good for me, because I just had to take a step back and think, well, hang on. I'm actually interested in a lot more than just people's music education. And so I'm very glad I came to this group in the sense that I think I stopped just thinking about what totally mattered to me. You're asking me what it's like for me in the classroom. I know that I could change the musical lives of children everywhere, not because I want them to be amazing musicians, but because I want them to enjoy a skill that I believe they have the right to have. And I know I can do it easily, but right now, Tony was saying, the arts, it's like shoved out, and they're supposed to write, what do they write about? Because we're not there. The artists, the musicians, the creators, we're not there to inspire them. They've just got to spell everything amazingly well, What I have found is during the pandemic, a lot of children had a lot more time. They got through their work in the mornings. And I found that my personal students, their performance went up hugely because they actually had space and time to play a lot more than they were before. And it was really interesting. And I've seen how music, has really healed people and held families together. And it's been really special, but I've so enjoyed coming right at the latter end of this. And I know that I'm offering the cream on the cake. I know that, but I do believe that what I have could be available for the world. And I've got a new school opening in Malaysia as of this week. I've got a new school opening in Hong Kong, and so lots of things are happening around the world. I just wish it was happening in the UK a little bit more. It's just so stuffy over here. We're kind of getting there, but it's been lovely to touch base with inspired people who believe in the future and who believe in tipping everything upside down. I believe in tipping music education upside down and doing it completely differently to how it's done at the moment. And so thank you. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity of sharing that.
Ruth, thank you for your participation in it. And what I found compelling about the piece that you, Zoe, and Jesse put together is that it's about, it really reframed the opportunity for learning and wrapping it in something that people love doing. So the academy that Jesse started or co-started they wrap that core education and things you wouldn't expect. So a class on engineering, which is actually Minecraft Redstone engineering. So when you say a comment like, oh, well, and it's just, you didn't say it's just music, but you sort of smoothed over the fact that there's so much more than just music that is learned in learning music. And so much of traditional education right now has completely forgotten that. And the more we can do to bring that back in, that we can wrap things of real importance. My biggest frustration is we're teaching kids to do, multiple integer multiplication or division when these kids know intrinsically all they have to do is ask Siri and they'll get the answer.
Yeah.
So why are we training them for that when we can train them, whether it's through the arts, whether it's through just other forms of learning? How do you get through this life? How do you make this world a better place? I will say just one thing, because I don't want, I'm happy to see that Gary Hanforth is on here. He's not visual, but he's logged in. He actually was one of our editor-at-large, and during his lion's share of work that he had to do, he was in the middle of having COVID. And I said, Gary, please stop. And he was like, no, I have to do this. Do not kick me off of this. I have to do this. So Gary, I thank you for that. Carlos, I want to go to you because you came in the section, the theme that you captured about, it's more about the sociology. Originally what we were thinking was, how do we get people, because we know humans have a hard time changing, how do we trigger them to want to put this in action? And you were able to take it more to that sky's the limit piece. So can you talk to us about your experience as a sociologist and what that brought to this equation of education and learning?
Oh, okay. Thank you. And well, you know that every time that I'm going to talk, it's like I don't know what to say. All what I was thinking when I was hearing all of you is like, okay, what I want to say. But first, I have to say that's what I wrote when Amy was talking, that it should be like a role of uncomfortableness role or something. That was your role. So I'm happy or glad that I was not the only one feeling that at the beginning was taking all of us out of the comfort zone. You really achieved that as the editors of the whole piece. And at some moment I was like, do I really want to continue doing this? It's like, they're sending me some comments like, what is wrong with these people? So it's great to hear that I was not the only one. And I'm telling this also because I want to say it, but also because the whole piece has to hopefully do the same for everyone. It has to be uncomfortable, meaning like it will push us through new boundaries. And then in this evolving book that was mentioned, I love that imagery. It's like whatever happens, it should go there. And well, talking about specifically this social fabric is very difficult. And I had several ideas, and you know that. I even inspire a lot in one piece that you say, okay, that's great, but leave it to other type of book. So I had another piece from here. But I just want to say that one thing that troubles me as anything, as a friend, as a teacher, as a consultant, is the lack of authenticity. And if educare from Latin, as this piece is stating, is to get the better from each one. Why is so hard for us, for anybody, to answer the question, what is my essence and what is my purpose? So that should be the social fabric, because from there, we can really build a society, a global society, because the people that I have known in my life that are more authentic tend to be more humble, but with a fierce force of doing things. It's not that they are weak, it's that they really want to conquer their dreams, but they don't want to disrespect anybody, which is also on this piece, is the topic of diversity, which is getting more and more difficult right now. It's amazing how people are seeing the one of the other side really in disrespectful ways. So I think that what end up being in this piece, which I'm happy the way it ended, is that what is my essence? And education should be a tool to help all of us ask that question. Don't be afraid of asking that question, and embrace uncertainty that there is no answer. That's their irony, but you need to ask the question. And well, I'm very happy that you allow my crazy futuristic ideas to be here, and that was shared by all of us, because we all edited all of the other pieces, which was a great exercise. And well, that's I always said, Jonathan, know that I talk a lot. It's good that English is not my native language, so I talk less, but I don't want to continue. But I just want to focus on those two things that hopefully this will be a piece to create uncomfortableness. I don't know how to say that word in people that read it and become this, whatever happens. And that from, as you said, Ruth, in terms of music, which I love the way you presented. And I have tried to learn to play piano. It has been very difficult, but it's like everybody should be having art classes, music or something classes, and I don't know what word, essence classes or emotional intelligence classes. But no, math is the king and writing is the queen, and we are leaving others there. And so it's great that this is out there. It's going to be out there. And well, when you say that from a sociological perspective, that's good and bad, because some people don't know what sociology means, and the importance is to have this holistic approach and this long-term approach, which supposedly we sociologists have. So, okay, this has been a great experience, and I want to continue working in this.
So I just wondered if anyone here who wasn't involved wanted to ask any questions about the process. If you put your email in the chat, we'll definitely be sending you. We're 2 versions away from being completely happy with it. But I wondered if anyone had any questions. Billy,
go ahead.
Okay, so $1 million question. I'm not part of this group. I just jumped in because I'm about to explore maverick educators, people who are disrupting and educating in ways that people are predicting for the future and stuff. My background, just so you know, it makes sense. I'm a paediatric children's nurse from London who used to be a lecturer and taught children's nursing. Did a master's in innovation and then interviewed 100 people around the world who disrupt their industries. And now I'm looking at people who I'm only in this room because by the 1st of April, I have to get a seed grant application into the RSA. So thank you, Mitchell, for sending me the report. My $1 million question is, I've loved hearing all your stories, but my question is, now what?
Yep, that's
because what usually happens is, sorry to interrupt you, Sally.
No, go for it.
What happens is, the world is full of hundreds of documents, but what happens is they get left as documents. Nothing happens with it afterwards. Who's actually, whereas the document, and I'm not at all dissing all the work you've done. I know what it's like. I helped write a Stitch in Time for the RSA and another one. And I know the amount of work that goes in, and it all comes from our hearts and our heads, yeah? The challenge is, once we've written this report, you know, I am just sitting here wondering how many reports the RSA has got that people did this beautiful work in all these different areas, and it got left as nothing but a report. So my question to you guys is, now what? You've done this work, what? And that's my question, because one of the things I'm doing is finding the mavericks who are I'm already talking to schools in the Himalayas where they're totally disrupting education, and I want to put something together that shows, okay, this is, and I'll tie the report in, this is what this is showing. But let me tell you about these people who are going out on their own, and this is how they're educating kids to be global citizens, to be members of their community, and to bring their gift forward. That's me on my soapbox.
We are.
One of the things that we're trying to do with the RSA is put together an event with people around the world where we break into these 8 different focus groups, okay. Have groups work on those focus groups, like what those focus areas on what should we be doing now, and then come together so that each group can then share ideas with the other groups. And if you have connections with the RSA, maybe the more people they hear who say that this is a good idea, the more likely we are to get this going with them.
Have put this out as not a end all be all. It is absolutely an invitation to participate. So we do look to make people uncomfortable in some cases and really prod and say, why not? Or what if? Or here's a different way of thinking about it. Because we also didn't want to presume that we knew how every community was. Forget every country. You know, as we use as the example of Zoe and Amy, like Amy, I think, is North Las Vegas and Zoe is South Las Vegas. And there's a major difference. And so really it was all about inspiration for change and saying this has to be changed. It is broken. We can no longer complete. We've got different perspectives. And as far as we can do is, again, try to get it into a space that it is open, quote unquote, open source. So people know they can go there. It's not set in stone. And there are a lot of things that we've seen, and I won't say which group has done it, but there are groups around the world that have put out things and they've said, this is it. And we have no belief that this is it. We believe that this is a beginning. It's something that we hope people will take forward.
Michael, do you want to come in?
I would. Some of you may have seen my comments in the chat. I hope I wasn't overly enthusiastic there. But I only recently joined as a fellow last year, but I've worked intersected with Anthony Painter at the RSA for years. We were both involved in the launch of the Cities of Learning initiative that came out of the MacArthur Foundation and Mozilla and other work. And I launched the Cities of Learning initiative here in Greater Washington, DC 6 years ago. What we've been working on now is how we take this work forward and really leapfrog this Cities of Learning concept. And as I mentioned in the chat, we have a lot of visions for what learning should look like. What's missing is a pathway to get there. I've been at the systems change game for 3 decades at the intersection of education and technology and communities. And I think that what we've started to put together is something that's a viable pathway to think differently about this. I love the idea of the event in April. I'd be happy to connect with Anthony at the RSA about this. But I'd also love to just schedule a follow-up call with people, follow-up Zoom with people that'd be interested in digging deeper on this. So that, we're still figuring this stuff out, right? I mean, I think, all of us are coming to this knowing that none of us have the solutions by ourselves. But I'm really excited to be part of this conversation because, as I wrote in my my RSA survey that I sent out via email today, the real power is the power for us to co-create solutions, and that this is an opportunity, a start. It's a handhold that I hadn't found with RSA before, so I'm just excited to to explore more, and let's figure out how to connect.
Thank you. That would be great.
And also just all of you who have done the work on this, thank you for taking the initiative to do it. It's going to help us move this forward. And I totally hear what Amy and Billy hear too. Amy, I know your reality, deeply. Billy, I hear what you're saying. I think we all agree and that we can find a way to move forward on this.
Carlos?
No, just to say something about Billy's question. Yeah, I think, I don't know, maybe Jonathan or Zoe or Mitchell, they have an answer, but I think they don't have an answer. But in a way, they know that they are in the path, because I'm thinking 1 year ago when maybe they start thinking about this idea, well, now we have the document. 1 year ago, maybe we didn't know if that was possible or not or whatever. And I'm sure that deep inside their hearts and minds, they have a glimpse of what is next. Not just RSA and publication and the meeting or whatever, what you are talking, Billy, is real impact. So they have embraced uncertainty in a great way, because every meeting that we had, they were really calm. I don't know how they were so calm. It's I should have been myself a little afraid if this was going to work or not. So that calmness, that mindfulness that they have, I'm sure that something will happen. But I think we don't have an answer, but I think we all have an inner voice that we really want this document to be more a movement than a document. So you're right, Billy, but
yeah.
So to that point, Zoe, Mitchell, and I had a conversation at the beginning. Is anybody going to raise their hand? And we thought it could just be the three of us that are like, so the fact that we had 22 people say they wanted to not just have a quick chat, but to actually dig deep and work on it, that was a great thing. We then had 18 more people contribute quotes, answers to a few questions that we put out there. Again, broadening our reach. And as we started doing this Augmented Society Network, it really was a space. That's what it is a space to provide a step forward. It's not that it's closed off. It's not that this education thing is the only thing we're doing. And what, for me personally, I've been truly energized by is how we were able to work with such amazing people to do something that hadn't been tried before. And by creating the space in which to do that, it really created magic. And the output, I believe, is going to have a good effect. But quite honestly, I feel like I've been so rewarded by the experience that is what I'm taking away from this. Is this has been phenomenal. It has allowed a relationship to happen with other people when relationships have been shut down around the world, to create something that, yes, hopefully will take on a life of its own and will build. And my hope is that with anybody starting something in an authentic way, that word was used before, in a way that is about inclusivity, that is about hearing and learning and being a space to grow, I believe that will automatically do all of those things without having to use too much muscle to make it happen.
And I agree, but I'm going to use some muscle. And that muscle is on this call. It's what we do. Billy, I can't thank you enough for bringing that up, because I find reports stale. Not this one, obviously, but the whole way in which you write something and you say to everyone, this is it. When we live in a world of TikTok, and we live in a world of 15 seconds of opportunity to grab at somebody and something, to even get in front of anyone of influence, is really tough. But I absolutely hear what you're saying, and we will do our utmost to make all of the muscle that has been used to this point over this year to keep us all sane, to keep us questioning, and as Carlos says, to keep us uncomfortable. I don't think I've been this uncomfortable for some time in terms of the topics that we were talking about, my misunderstandings or lack of understanding on things that I thought, oh yeah, I know that, I can comment. No, I can't do that. So we realize that it has to be something that's living, and we are looking into that. We could do with a hand every single day and every minute. But I'm going to finish up there, Jonathan.
Yes.
And Mitch, and just say thank you very much. The document is very close to being finished. It's literally just some polishing that we want to do, and we need to determine a way to keep it live so that it isn't just published as a finished piece, which it certainly isn't. A huge thank you to everybody involved. It's certainly been a journey. Yeah. We will be in touch, and I also hope that you can join us next month for our next session.
I'm really excited about the next sessions because we're moving out of the pandemic. The next one is yeah. So the next one in April for our ASN session. This is not the larger global session that we're going to do the education project with, but it's all about time to escape. So how do we utilize technology in society to take a break from the challenges? And then May, we're moving on to digital access to consciousness. And there's some really interesting ways that conversation could go in all forms of consciousness. And then in June, we will be doing how can digital, or forget about digital, how can we be more inclusive? We've talked, when talking about artificial intelligence or biases against, that exclude, we want to talk about what are people seeing, what are systems, what are things that can actually perpetuate inclusivity, make things more available for us to learn about each other and embrace each other. And again, build society in a better way. So very excited about what's coming up, very excited about the release of this project. Again, thanks to everybody. Zoe, anything last?
Amy's got a cat, so the cat wins.
The cat wins.
Yeah, the meeting is over.
All right.
Thank
Cheers,
you.
everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, ciao.
Ciao.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.